Action.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Tree Peekers podcast. My name's Rylie, and welcome to the new episode of Tree Peekers podcast. We hope you enjoy this episode. Now here's my dad.
Can you still see me?
Yes.
Yes. Let's make sure. Yep, looks like it's recording. Give me the book, honey. Hey everybody, it's Eddie with the Tree Peekers podcast. Got to get episode 12 in here today. I accidentally recorded episode 13 on the last podcast. It's supposed to be episode 12, right, Rylie?
Yes.
But I screwed up. So I got my daughter Rylie with me today. She did the introduction. Today I want to talk about a story emanating from the early 1900s, 1924 to be exact. This is a classic Bigfoot story in the community and in the... Let me see here. Okay, yeah. In the community and in the ethereal realm of Bigfoot. Here's Rylie. Rylie J wants to hang out with me today on the podcast. So today's the story of Ape Canyon. I got this little book here. A bunch of little stories from Quest magazine that talk about Bigfoot. This is Ray Harwood's Bigfoot from Quest magazine. So today we're going to be talking about Ape Canyon, the story of Ape Canyon. I think in here there's a bunch of other little stories from the Mount St. Helens area in Oregon with Bigfoot. So that's what I got. Let's you're gonna see me keep doing this because last time my stupid camera accidentally cut off on me and it totally screwed up my episode. I lost about half of it, had to re-record the ending. But today what do you mean? Oh, Rylie, tell them what page we're going to be on here for the story of Ape Canyon.
25.
Page 25 in the story of Ape Canyon. Tell our friends here that like Tree Peekers that this is going to be the story of Ape Canyon on page 25 from the Bigfoot Quest book.
Do I have to?
Go ahead, tell them.
No.
Page 25, tell them.
Page 25.
You got to be in front of the camera, honey.
No.
Okay. She said she wanted to be in front of the camera. Okay, here she is.
25.
Page 25 from the Bigfoot Quest book.
From the Bigfoot Quest book. Right here, it's got a really cool picture on the back.
Yes, it does. Look at that. There's Bigfoot there in front of the volcano. Pretty awesome picture there. So, let's go ahead and get an episode in. Let's tell you the story of Ape Canyon, okay, from 1924. Let's take a little listen, little trip down memory lane here, okay? Here we go, folks. In late July 1924, a group of miners led by Fred Beck, a seasoned prospector, were working at the cabin near Ape Canyon, a deep gorge on the southern flank of Mount St. Helens. Now, at the time when this occurred, they did not call it Ape Canyon. That's how they're referencing it now. But in 1924, it was just the wilderness, okay? And because of the attack that happened that night, it has forever been etched in stone as Ape Canyon, okay?
That's pretty cool.
It's a pretty neat story. Well, it's a pretty terrifying story, actually, Rylie. Are you going to listen while I read?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then Riley's going to learn all about how these miners in the year 1924, think about this, folks, 1924, we are talking, I mean, pristine wilderness still, you know, like I talk about this on a few previous episodes. When you go back that far and even further to the 1800s and whatnot, you didn't have just the land that had just been raped and pillaged by the settlers from Europe yet, right? I mean, it was just pristine wilderness, which you can only imagine how, I mean, if you go out now to the national parks and stuff, you know, the nature reserves that we have, you can still see how beautiful it is. But just imagine, you know, you're not driving your brand new air-conditioned SUV at the time to drive out on these roads. And I mean, it's you've got to get in there on horseback. You've got to take all the supplies you need to be out there for the next 3 to 6 months. Just incredible. So let's get back to the story, folks. The story of Ape Canyon, 1924, as told by Fred Beck, one of the miners that day, okay? Here we go. The miners, along with a couple of their friends, had ventured into the wilderness for a routine mining operation, but their peaceful stay quickly turned into a nightmare. One evening, the group was inside their cabin when they heard loud, disturbing sounds from outside. I wonder what those could be, guys, huh? Think about that. Imagine being out there 1924, circa 1924. You got a fire going on in the cabin. Maybe you just had some dinner. Night has set in, and all of a sudden you start hearing what we come to know today as Bigfoot noises, right? The things when they approach people or when they're around, such as the things I heard out there in the Bistai Badlands. We've talked about it. So let's check it out. Let's restart here. One evening, the group was inside their cabin when they heard loud, disturbing sounds from outside. The noises included heavy stomping. What did I say about my story in the Bistai? You could hear them running all around us, right? Snapping twigs, grunting, growling, the whole 9 yards. Let's keep going. See if we got any similarities here. The noises included heavy stomping, grunting, and the unmistakable sound of rocks being thrown at the cabin. How many times have we heard about those rocks, right? The miners were unnerved, but initially thought the disturbances were caused by wild animals. However, things escalated when the attackers began throwing rocks with great force at the cabin's roof and walls. At this point, the miners realized they were under siege. After several nights of attacks, the miners decided to venture out and confront the source of the disturbance. So this went on for a couple nights, Rylie J.
Okay,
Can you imagine?
That's
Can you
pretty
imagine?
creepy.
That's pretty damn creepy. And I mean, just imagine, it would be creepy today, let
know.
alone 150 years ago, okay? So it starts with a little bit of rock throwing, grunting. They hear them outside. And as this story you're going to learn here as you go on, if anybody who knows about the story of Ape Canyon, I mean, they eventually were throwing boulders at this cabin. Scared the daylights. It scared the living shit out of these people, to be honest with you. I don't mean to, but that's how it went down. So let's keep going here. However, things escalated when the attackers began throwing rocks with great force at the cabin's roof and walls. At this point, the miners realized they were under siege. After several nights of attacks, the miners decided to venture out and confront the source of the disturbance. Armed with rifles, Fred Beck and his companions attempted to confront the assailants. As they climbed down into the canyon, they encountered large, human-like creatures. Okay? Not monkeys. Human-like. Okay? Let's keep going. Human-like creatures, which the miners believed to be Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Beck reported that they encountered a group of large, hairy, humanoid beings that stood between 7 to 8 feet tall. The creatures had reddish-brown hair and resembled apes. Yeah, of course they do, right? Because they're covered in hair, right? But they are much smarter than a monkey. These things have eluded us for all this time, and I'm telling you right now, they've got more human-like qualities than they do a monkey. So let's keep going. The creatures had reddish-brown hair and resembled apes, but with human-like faces. Human-like faces. Hear that? This is 1924, folks. The miners fired their weapons in self-defense. Rylie, that means they were shooting their rifles at them. Boom! Boom! That's how scared they were. You're not going to fire your gun at nothing. Right, Rylie? Right? You're not going to fire your gun at an owl who's hooting at night. Hoo, 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 hoo. No. This was something else, folks. This was something that terrified them to the point where they had to go outside, load their rifles, get ready, bang, bang. They're trying to get these things the hell away from them. And I'll tell you right now, folks, I would hate to see a Sasquatch get killed or whatnot, or be harmed. Rylie, be careful. Don't slam that door, okay? Just leave it open if you're going to open it. But if they're trying to harm you, you got nothing to do but self-defense. Open it all the way, honey, and don't slam it because it might knock my camera down, okay, babe?
I'm doing that. Dad, if you want me to go check if it's recording, I'll just come over here.
See, as long as the red is on there, that means we're recording, okay? All right, so here we go, guys. Let's keep going. The miners fired their weapons in self-defense, and the creatures retreated, but not before allegedly throwing rocks at the men. After the skirmish, the miners quickly returned to their cabin, where they barricaded themselves for the remainder of their time in the area. The miners' harrowing experience was reported in August 1924 edition of the Oregonian newspaper, with Fred Beck giving a first-hand account of the attack. According to Beck, the creatures were highly territorial and aggressive, and they had been throwing rocks at the miners to drive them away from the canyon. Despite the violent encounter, Beck emphasized that the creatures never attempted to directly harm the men in a lethal way, and that's big too there, okay? I'm pretty sure I've heard, like, few and far between of these things being really, really aggressive and trying to harm people, but a lot of times they're throwing rocks at you, they're screaming, they're growling, they're grunting, whatever, because you come into their area, you come into their neck of the woods, and it says here, territorial. They just want you out, right? Because 9 times out of 10, they're used to being out there just living life off the land. All of a sudden, some human beings come in, right? Some miners, some prospectors, some campers, some hunters, whatever it may be. But they come into the Bigfoot's territory, and hell yeah, they want them out of there. I mean, I'm gonna ask you, tree peeker listeners out there, if somebody came into your house or into where you and your family are you going to want them suckers out of there if they're coming in and trying to, you know, squat in your neck of the woods for the next week or so, or even for a weekend? No, you're not going to have it. And these things don't either, right? Because they're not elk, they're not moose, they're not deer. There's something human in them, and they're going to be very protective of their families, of their young, of their tribe, whatever it may be that they have out there. They're going to want you out, just like they wanted me out of the Bisti Badlands when me and my friends got stuck out there for the night. They had us for the taking. I said it 1,000 times. They could have had us for the taking. They were close. I mean, they were all around us, at least 2 or 3 of them. And if they wanted to hurt us, we were in the pitch black darkness. The only light we had out there was the headlights of our cars. We were trying to fix what had got us stuck out there in the first place. And those creatures, those animals, those beings had us for the taking. Rylie J, I've told you this story numerous times about my Bigfoot story, and if they wanted to hurt us, honey, they could have done it. But they didn't, right? They just wanted to scare us, get us the hell out of there. Well, that's what it sounds like they were trying to do with these miners, from Fred Beck telling his story to the Oregonian in August 1924. August 1924. Long before we ever heard anything of them, you know, on TV or on shows like Finding Bigfoot or any of that shit, right? Long before that, you have some guys go out into the damn wilderness to go mine some precious metals and gold and silver and these things, and this happens to them. So let's keep going, guys. Here we go. Despite the violent encounter, Beck emphasized that the creatures never attempted to directly harm the men in a lethal way, suggesting they might have just been protecting their territory or young. Think about that. What did I just say? It lines up perfectly. Okay, the 8 Canyon incident, though anecdotal and lacking physical evidence, has contributed a number of key insights and ideas that are still debated among Bigfoot researchers today. Several conclusions can be drawn. What happened here? Several conclusions can be drawn about the Bigfoot. Number 1, aggressive, territorial behavior. The fact that the creatures threw rocks at the miners and protected their territory suggests that Bigfoot, if it exists, is highly territorial. The creature's aggressiveness, defense of their home, even at the risk of injury or death, shows that they might view humans as intruders. What did I just get done saying when I was just riffing there? Right, Rylie? Mm-hmm. Right? They just see us as coming in to their zone where we're not supposed to be. And it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see here. So the creature's aggressive defense of their home, even at the risk of injury or death, shows that they might view humans as intruders in their habitat. This territorial behavior is consistent with other reports of Bigfoot encounters, where people often describe the creatures as defensive and sometimes aggressive when provoked. Number 2, height and physical strength. The size of the creature is estimated to be between 7 and 8 feet tall, has become a standard feature in the Bigfoot descriptions. The miners' account of the creature's physical power, evident in the rock throwing and the damage done to the cabin, suggests that the Bigfoot might possess considerable physical strength capable of defending itself or territory effectively. The physical prowess has been a consistent theme in Bigfoot lore, with many reports emphasizing that the creature's strength and ability to manipulate its environment in extraordinary ways. Talk about manipulating its environment. I mean, once again, I mentioned it on the last podcast. Matter of fact, my mom, your Nana, who loves Bigfoot, I got her into it and whatnot. She, well, let's say hi to Nana. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. You want to say hi to Nana real quick? Hi, Nana. Tell her. Hi. She's going to watch this on YouTube.
Hi, Nana.
There we go. That's for you, Nana. We love you, okay? But my mom just started watching a documentary that was based up in Bailey, Colorado. It was all about Bigfoot and the portals, right? Bigfoot and them being able to disappear, or Bigfoot, and before you see it, you see the red orbs in the forest, you know, or you see there's a UFO sighting and then there's a Bigfoot. And I'm telling you, man, the more and more you go down the rabbit hole of this subject, I don't know if there is like a few different kinds of them, or if they're all intermingling, intersectioning, like, I don't know how to explain it, really. When you get into the woo-woo factor of this shit, into the paranormal aspect of it, the high strangeness aspect of Bigfoot, it'll take you down a damn rabbit hole that you never saw coming. But there's something to it, because a lot of people have these stories. I just picked up Quantum Bigfoot by Ron Moorhead, one of the lead researchers in the Bigfoot community. He was made world famous in this subject by what happened in the Sierra Nevadas. He's got the Sierra Sounds. Ron Moorhead and his hunting camp up there in the Sierra Nevadas. If you're not familiar with the subject, we'll get into it. Don't worry. But pretty amazing stuff. Pretty fantastic stuff that he had recorded. I want to keep going around here and check a few things out here. Let me see here. Let's see here. All right, let's read this. The Ape Canyon incident, one of the most significant events in Bigfoot folklore, took place near Mount St. Helens in Washington State in 1924. While the narrative primarily focuses on the alleged encounter between miners and a group of Bigfoot-like creatures, the geological setting of Ape Canyon itself, located in close proximity to Mount St. Helens, is of equal interest. The paper explores the geological and geographic context of Ape Canyon, evaluating its proximity to the eruptive history of Mount St. Helens, the implications of volcanic activity on the landscape, and the broader environmental features of the area that could contribute to the area's unique ecological and topographical character. Understanding the area's geology is crucial for interpreting the historical and contemporary implications of the Ape Canyon story, particularly in terms of the environmental changes, human and animal interactions, and the ecological dynamics of the region. Let's see here. Okay. I want to go a little bit more in depth here. Let's see. This book is weird. It's like a bunch of little stories about the same thing, but like told in different ways. Let's read from here and see what this says here, okay? The Mount St. Helens region in the southwest Washington. Oh, I see. I said Mount St. Helens was in Oregon earlier. Pardon me. It's in Washington State, not in Oregon. Let's get that straight first foremost there. The Mount St. Helens region in the southwest Washington has been the site of numerous legendary tales of mysterious creatures, most notably Bigfoot or the Sasquatch sightings. Among these tales, in 1924 Ape Canyon incident stands as one of the most prominent and widely discussed accounts of an encounter with these elusive beings. The paper seeks to provide an in-depth exploration of the events surrounding the famous Ape Canyon attack of July 1924, as recounted by one of the surviving miners, in order to understand the significance of this incident in the broader context of the Bigfoot lore and the ongoing investigation into the creature's existence. In the summer of 1924, a group of miners led by a man named Hank had been working their gold claim, the Vander White, located 2 miles east of Mount St. Helens near a deep canyon later named Ape Canyon. After the incident, the area was known for its dense wilderness and difficult terrain. Like I said earlier, right? Dense wilderness, difficult terrain, right? There was no roads that you hop in your SUV with 4-wheel drive like we did, Rylie, right? We put on the off-road,
yes,
we put in the 4-wheel drive, we came out here. Well, in 1924, they didn't have that. They had to hike in, they had to pack their horses, they had to get on horseback, hike in and get to these places, which probably took them days. It wasn't just an hour drive to get to exotic spot, right? I mean, just incredible. Let's keep going here. The miners who had been prospecting in the area for 6 years had encountered numerous large, mysterious tracks near creek beds and springs. These tracks, some measuring up to 19 inches in length, had caused unease among the men. I wonder why. A 19-inch foot track? Come on now. As they could not identify any known animal capable of producing such prints. The first encounter, the creature in the canyon. On the evening of July 24th, the miners had an eerie and unsettling experience when Hank and the other miner went to fetch water from a nearby spring. While approaching the spring, Hank, ever cautious of the strange tracks they had seen, suggested they arm themselves. As they neared the spring, Hank suddenly raised his rifle and fired 3 shots at a large, hairy creature, which observed standing about 100 yards away by a pine tree. Rylie, so that means, okay, if you guys can see our background here, like a tree over there, about 100 yards away, there was a Bigfoot standing right there, watching them as they were getting water from the creek. You know what I mean? Because guess what? In 1924, they didn't have bottles of water like we can get from the damn store. Honey, I'm pointing to you and telling you that's how far the Bigfoot was away, right there. These folks can imagine what 100 yards away is, but I'm showing you right over there where those trees are. That's about how far the Bigfoot was away. Could you imagine? See them 2 trees? Boom, boom, right there. What if there was a Bigfoot standing behind there right now?
That would be creepy.
What do you think, Rylie? Would that freak you out a little bit?
Yes.
Hey, she got scared. You know what?
A long time ago, when we went to go get some puppies, we were out in a Bigfoot country.
We were definitely out in Bigfoot country. So we were out towards Pagosa, Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had to turn down a dirt road, right, out there by Chimney Rock, which is a national monument. So we were way out in the middle of nowhere.
It was pretty dark out there.
And it was pitch black. The sun had just set, right?
Yes.
Night had settled in. Took us about 2 hours to get there from Farmington. And you tell them, Rylie, we turned down that road, that dirt road, and what'd you say?
I thought a Bigfoot I thought we would see
Talk to the camera, honey.
I thought we would see some mean Bigfoot. I was scared.
Here's what she said.
Scared.
Here's what she said. She said, Daddy, lock the doors. She had to be about 4 years old.
No,
right? 5?
No.
5 years old?
I was at least 6.
Okay, almost 6 then. Let's say that, okay? We've had the dogs for about 2 years, so you're probably right? We turned down this dirt road when we were about 10 minutes away from arriving at our destination to pick up these puppies. And when we turned down this road, Rylie says to me, Dad, roll up the windows and lock the doors, please. I said, what's going on, Rylie? I don't know if it was intuition that told Rylie this.
Intuition.
Because we weren't talking about Bigfoot. We weren't saying a single word about him. It was intuition, right, Rylie? And Rylie told me, Dad, they're not all nice. They're not all nice. There's some mean ones, and there's a mean one out there. So she was terrified when we turned down that road that there was an angry, mean Bigfoot in that area. Don't know why she said it. She said it out of the blue, right? You just out of nowhere, she got freaked out. So I'm not saying there was anything to that, but it was interesting, right, baby? Because up until then, right, you had always thought maybe it was like this guy who's on my shirt right here, right? Just a nice Bigfoot out in the woods, right? But talk about being out in the middle of nowhere, out towards Pagosa. Before you get to that, oh baby, I'm telling you right now. So Rylie got the vibe that they're not all nice, and she let us know. And we're talking 6 years old, so I always thought that was cool. I loved that about my daughter. She always gets these intuitive thoughts. Even when she was younger, right, Rylie? She would tell me things that she shouldn't know as a 4-year-old or a young girl, right? And I'd say, Rylie, how do you know that? And she'd go, I don't know, Dad. It's just in my mind. And she would point, to her mind. And I always thought that was pretty cool. And that little Bigfoot note that she slipped in there when we were going to pick the puppies up, Pancake and Bella, right? Mm-hmm. Who are our 2 labs. Rylie felt that in the air that night, and that was pretty neat. So Bigfoot's always been a big part of our family since you've been around, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I got into this thing. I had my experience, over 20-something years ago in the Bisti Badlands, and I didn't know what happened. Like I've said many times, for 20 years, I didn't know what happened. But when I got into this subject, 2018, 2019, really dove in. When this girl was born, by that time, she was growing up, and she's heard about it a lot. And whether she believes or not, I don't really know. It's up to her, but she definitely knows all about the Bigfoot, right? She knows Dad watches a lot of movies and documentaries. What's Dad always go to sleep to at night when he's going to sleep? Bigfoot. I put on podcasts, or I put on stuff of people sharing. Yep, people sharing their stories. Put the little mask on and close my eyes, and it's just a joy to listen to while I'm going to sleep. Plus, it makes me have really cool dreams, which I kind of like. And we've got 3 dream catchers hanging over.
Yes.
Our beds in our bedrooms. So
yes.
Rylie thinks that they keep us safe, and I believe that they do. So sometimes nightmares do slip in, don't they, Rylie J? Mm-hmm. Okay, looks like we're still recording, honey. Let me keep going here, and then we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. Just wanted to get an episode in with my daughter today. She wanted to be a part of the podcast. So today's episode is dedicated to my sweet pea here, Rylie J, and it's for her, and it's also for Nana, because we love you, Nana. Hope you like this one, okay? Got your Rylie J in it for you, okay? So let's keep going on this little story here. The first encounter, the creature in the canyon. We're going to reread a little bit here. On the evening of July 24th, the miners had an eerie and unsettling experience when Hank and another miner went to fetch water from a nearby spring. While approaching the spring, Hank, ever cautious of the strange tracks they had seen, suggested they arm themselves as they neared the spring. Hank suddenly raised his rifle and fired 3 shots at a large, hairy creature which was observed standing about 100 yards away by a pine tree. The creature described being about 7 feet tall with a blackish brown hair, quickly disappeared behind the tree. The miners pursued the creature briefly, but lost sight of it as it ran swiftly down the canyon. Anytime you ever hear about these suckers taking off down a canyon too, it's like, you know, they run like, I mean,
this is the picture.
The way they get through a canyon, you wouldn't believe, you know? I mean, you hear about these guys. Look at this guy firing at the Bigfoot here. Pow, pow. And then this guy takes off down the canyon, gets down a gorge that, you know, none of us could climb on our own, right? We need ropes and stuff to get down. These suckers can, I mean, they know their terrain. Let me look, Rylie.
We're still recording.
Yep, I got it. Here we go.
I can look up the side.
Let me show you another picture here, guys. You got a badass picture there of Bigfoot on top of the canyon. Careful, Jay. Okay, we got it. It's good. Let me double check. We're good. Back up. Back up, honey. Okay. The miners pursued the creature briefly, but lost sight of it as it ran swiftly down the canyon. Although the event was brief, it left a lasting impression on the miners, and Hank, who was determined to stay and work the gold claim despite the dangers, continued his efforts. However, the creature's presence had clearly disturbed the group, and the men decided to leave the following morning. So this is a different story from Ape Canyon, which is awesome. I mean, I think this book is just full of Ape Canyon stories. I wasn't quite sure. I just got this in the mail, what, yesterday? And before I even read these suckers,
yesterday.
I just read them online to you guys. Like, I think it's cooler that I just, I don't know what the hell I'm going to read. I just pop in and we just do it together. So this is cool. I'm digging this. Here we go. The night of the attack. As night fell, descended upon the cabin, the miners gathered around the fireplace to discuss their plans. The cabin, a sturdy structure built by the men themselves, provided some comfort amidst the wilderness, but their peace was short-lived. Now this, let's keep going, because I'm wondering if this is the same damn story. We're learning together, folks. Let's keep going. In the dead of night, the men were awakened by a tremendous thud against the cabin wall, followed by a commotion outside. Hank, who was sleeping on the floor, was the first to react, shouting and waving his rifle in defense. The miners quickly armed themselves and tried to make sense of the situation. They observed through the chinking in the cabin walls a group of 3 creatures, though the sound suggested that many more were outside. These creatures, described as large and ape-like, seemed to be attacking the cabin, throwing rocks and pushing against the structure with considerable force. Let me make sure. Okay, good.
I just did.
I know. The miners were desperate to protect themselves, firing shots when the creatures climbed onto the roof and pushed against the door. Despite their best efforts, the attack continued throughout the night, with the creatures making periodic attempts to break into the cabin. At one point, one of the creatures reached its arm through the chinkling, attempted to seize an axe, but was thwarted when the miner inside managed to prevent it from pulling the weapon out. During the chaotic exchange, one of the miners, Hank, in an attempt to reason with the creatures, began singing a light-hearted tune, perhaps in an effort to calm the situation. His words, "If you leave us alone, we will leave you alone, and we'll go home in the morning," seemed to offer little comfort to the attackers, but the humor served as a rare moment of levity in the otherwise terrifying encounter. Okay, and then it says, in the aftermath and departure. As dawn approached, the attack eventually subsided. The miners, shaken but still intact, cautiously emerged from the cabin. They noticed one of the creatures standing near the edge of Ape Canyon about 80 yards away. One of the miners took aim and fired 3 shots, sending the creature tumbling down into the gorge below. Well, that sucks. It sounds like they shot one, but I can understand totally, because they were probably terrified, Rylie J. Realizing the danger that they were still in, Hank insisted that the men leave immediately. They quickly packed what they could, carrying their packs, and left behind valuable mining equipment and supplies. Their primary concern had shifted from the gold claim to the preservation of their lives. Now that reminds me of a story, funny thing, we just shared about going to get them puppies from Pagosa, right outside Pagosa by Chimney Rock. Well, I got a story from Pagosa where these people that were up there at one of the lakes up there, you know, and Pagosa's at a pretty high elevation, you know, if you know anything about the area, southern Colorado there, it's gorgeous out there, right? Pristine wilderness out there in the Colorado mountains, Rockies or whatever. Well, a guy pulls up on a four-wheeler to this campsite, and when he gets there, he finds super expensive tents, ice, you know, coolers, you know, sleeping bags, food and everything scattered all over the place. Like, so this guy he stops his four-wheeler, he goes kind of to survey the situation, check it all out, and he 100% says that you could tell the expensive backpacks, everything that was left there, something with hands, right? Hands and thumbs went through everything, threw everything out of the coolers, of the backpacks, whatever food or perishables were there. They went through and scattered that all over, had maybe eaten some of it, whatever. But the main thing about this story is whoever left all that stuff left in a hurry. Let's get away from the camera, honey. I don't want you to knock the camera down or something, okay? So these people, all of that equipment that was out there cost a lot of money, I can guarantee you, right? And they were camping out there, and something terrified them to the point where they had to get the hell out of there in the middle of the night, right? I don't know anybody who's just going to leave thousands of dollars worth of camping equipment outside. Like, nobody just leaves like that, right? But it's not the first story that I've heard out of the Pagosa area, but it's one of the more scary ones. There's also a video online of some campers who are sitting around a campfire, and they hear what sounds like a damn werewolf out there howling at the moon and tree knocking. Doo, doo, doo. Remember that one I've showed you? Showed you that video? And I was also told that was from around the Pagosa area as well. So a few stories of some things scaring the shit out of people and getting them out of their little area, you know, like we talked about before. So let's see here real quick. The aftermath and public reaction. Upon returning home to Keslow, Washington, Hank shared the story with local authorities, including the ranger at the Spirit Lake Station, who was initially skeptical but took note of the miner's claim. Soon after, the story spread through the local and regional newspapers, sparking a flurry of interest in the mysterious creatures that had attacked the miner's cabin. The media dubbed the creatures the hairy apes or the mountain devils, and the incident became a part of Washington State's Bigfoot lore. So to me, this sounds like this is not the one of the that classical story at Bigfoot Canyon. This is another story at Ape Canyon, not Bigfoot Canyon, which is just crazy. I mean, but it doesn't surprise me. Out in Washington, Oregon, Northern California, man, you get some, going into Canada up there, you get some pretty amazing stories. Let me see where we're at here, guys. We're a little over a half an hour, Riley. What do you think? Should we wrap it up, or should I give them a couple more stories here?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up with this right here, okay? We're going to wrap it up with this for today, since this was all Ape Canyon stuff. Let's do this. Fred Beck's continuing saga, The Ape Men of Mount St. Helens. Okay, the story of the mysterious Ape Men of Mount St. Helens has captured the imagination of many, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, where the legend continues to thrive. The paper delves into the ongoing saga of Fred Beck, one of the key figures associated with the 1924 encounter that contributed to the development of the Ape Men legend. By examining historical reports, local folklore, and Beck's personal testimony, we will explore the persistence of the Ape Men myth and its impact on the Sasquatch research and popular culture. Now, if you can see this picture, check this picture out, Riley. Look at the size of those guys, dude. They're the size of the damn cabin. Let's check that out, everybody. You can see that there. Like I said, this is all Washington State, right?
Yeah,
Let's see here. Washington State, Ape Canyon region, up by Mount St. Helens. Incredible. The origin of the Ape Man legend. The Ape Man legend surrounding Mount St. Helens dates back long before the first encounters with European settlers. Indigenous tribes, including the Selahtik, it's hard to pronounce, Selahtik, Salatik. Okay, this is a tribe of indigenous natives up in the Washington area, okay? I do apologize for not being able to pronounce that name. So the Sahalatik believed in creatures resembling giant apes that roam the Cascade Range, living in caves, acting in a manner similar to wild animals. These stories were passed down through generations and would later form the basis of the modern Sasquatch lore. However, it was the 1924 incident involving Fred Beck and his group of prospectors that brought the tale of the ape men to the attention of the wider public. The group working on the east slopes of the Mount St. Helens claimed to have encountered a group of giant ape-like creatures, which they later described as both terrifying and seemingly malevolent. The miners' tale of being attacked and bombarded with rocks by the creatures would become the cornerstone of the ape men legend, sparking subsequent investigations and public fascination. Fred Beck, along with 4 other prospectors, was reportedly the first to have direct interaction with the ape men. In late July 1924, after seeing these creatures on the mountain slopes, Beck and his companions fired upon one of them in an attempt to protect themselves. According to Beck's account, one of the creatures appeared to have been struck and fell into a ravine. That night, the group was besieged by rock-throwing creatures and subjected to a series of loud and unsettling noises until dawn. That means until the sun came up, Rylie. They bothered him all night long. Let's see here. Make sure we're good, guys. Okay, we're keep rolling.
Is that just because they killed one?
They're probably pretty pissed off that they killed one. Or even if they didn't kill him, they shot at one, right? So even if they were out there doing what they were doing and they saw the Bigfoot, the creature, off in the distance there, and they decided to shoot at him with its rifles and they dropped him down in the ring, yeah, it's going to piss off his family members, right? Okay, here we go. While Beck's tale was initially met with skepticism, it set off a cascade of similar reports from other individuals and groups in the area. The media, as well as law enforcement, became embroiled in what was later dubbed the Great Ape Hunt of 1924, a large-scale search for the creatures which was marked by widespread public interest. Despite finding footprints that seemed to confirm the existence of these strange beings, no definitive evidence of the ape men was discovered, leaving the question of their reality open to debate. While the Great Ape Hunt of 1924 failed to uncover solid proof of the creatures, the legend of the ape men did not die. Throughout the decades, there have been numerous sightings and encounters reported in the region surrounding Mount St. Helens, most notably from locals and hikers. One particularly interesting case in 1964 saw 2 separate Portland groups report sightings of large, hairy creatures near Ape Canyon and the Lewis River, reinforcing the idea that the ape men were not merely the figments of an overactive imagination. Fred Beck's involvement in these later events is a subject of continued discussion in the 1964 article from the Longview Daily News. Beck's name reappears as if he is referenced by others who claim to have seen similar creatures on Mount St. Helens. His credibility as a key witness continues to lend weight to the argument that something other than ordinary wildlife may be responsible for the sightings in the region. Beck's assertion that he and his group were attacked by these creatures and the continued sightings and reports by subsequent visitors to the area suggest that the ape men myth may be grounded in more than folklore. Though there are nothing more than misidentified animals or hoaxes, many of those involved in subsequent investigations, including forestry employees and experienced mountaineers, remain convinced that something unusual exists in the wilds of the Cascades. And I would have to agree, 1,000%. Fred Beck's account of the 1924 encounter with the ape men has been influential in the development of the Sasquatch research. The similarities between Beck's description of the creatures and the modern-day understanding of Sasquatch, large, bipedal, hairy, bipedal, Rylie, you know what that means? Okay, you know how a bear walks on all 4, right? Walks on all 4 legs. A deer, an elk, they all walk on 4 legs. Bipedal is like human beings, like us.
We walk on 2 legs.
We walk on 2 legs. We walk upright, right? So that's what they mean when they say bipedal. So that's another strange thing when they see these hair-covered creatures, right? If it's a bear, it should be on all 4s. Yes, bears stand up. They scratch their back on trees. They forage for berries and different things. But they don't walk on 2 legs, you know, like a human does, and walk upright and have human-like features in their face and stuff. That's why I think it's crazy to me when people think that, now let's not say that you couldn't have a misidentified sighting by thinking if you saw a grizzly up standing on 2 legs scratching his back on the tree or something, but when you see these beings walking upright and have face like humans, you're not getting confused with a bear. I can guarantee you that. Now, let's see where we left off here. Bipedal, okay? Just wanted to let my daughter know that meant walking upright, right? And anytime these beings are seen, 9 times out of 10, they're standing on 2 legs.
I remember one time, a long time ago, we were coming home from Durango. We were listening to this one podcast.
Okay.
They thought they saw a bear standing up. So they thought they saw a bear walking on 2 legs.
Right.
So they were real confused about it.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of times people get confused with that. And then when the thing doesn't get down on all 4s and it keeps walking upright, that's when some hunters or hikers in some of these podcasts that I listen to that she's overheard in the car, that's where, you know, the bottom drops out, you know, of their thought process, and things just take a disturbing turn because they say to themselves, oh my God, that's not a bear. What the hell is that thing walking on 2 legs? You hear that over there, Rylie?
Yeah.
What is that? You hear that? It's like a neat sounding bird or something like that, but you hear that? I don't know. Never really heard a bird like that, but it sounds kind of interesting. You hear that? What is that? Maybe we'll finish up with these stories, and that way Rylie don't get too freaked out here, because if you ever know, you know, the further you get into this subject, the more stories you hear. You'll hear about these creatures mimicking birds, owls, making all kinds of different sounds. Matter of fact, Rylie, let's go ahead and show everybody where we're at today, okay? This is where we're at, okay? We're out here. We came out here to get the vibe going, right, Rylie? We came out to get the Sasquatch vibe going, right, baby?
Yes.
And we are out here now. There's an oil well over there. You can see it. It's right over there. That's the road we took to
right
get here.
Over there. That's where my dad showed where that we could have saw.
Go walk over here and point him and tell him. Okay. That's where I was pointing, right? About 100 yards away.
With those 2 little trees.
Yep, that's where we were pointing. Perfect, right? Now, you know what was strange about those noises we heard, Rylie?
Yeah.
Is we haven't heard them again, right? They
Yeah.
came from right back over there. I mean, we're out here, guys. You know, like I said, there's an oil well there. But we are out here, right, Rylie?
Yes.
We are out here in the boonies. We came out here to get a good Sasquatch vibe going. And that's what we are. Right, Rylie J?
Yes.
Got my Sasquatch shirt on. Rylie J's with me. You know, I was going to keep reading, but I think we've got a pretty good handle on episode 12. I got to get it in because I accidentally made episode 13, which was supposed to be episode 12. Yeah, so take a look at that happening over here.
Very pretty.
This is the beautiful state of New Mexico, guys, okay? High desert. Beautiful, beautiful. Got nothing but an epic blue sky here. But I think we might be pretty good. What do you think, Rylie? We call it on this one, buddy?
Yeah.
I think that we've got enough for, for episode 12. We're going to squeeze it in. Even though, like a moron, I put episode 13 out before episode 12. I do apologize to all you out there. But I think this was, it's going to be titled The Ape Canyon Story, right? That's what I'm going to call episode 12. I think we got a pretty good little episode in. Rylie and I got to share some of our own thoughts. But I got a lot more coming. And we're going to learn a lot more about Sasquatch together. And we better get out of here because I got to get home to the other 2 little babies and our beautiful mom, right? My beautiful wife, Rylie's mom, Megan. We love you, Mom. Thanks for watching the boys because we're coming home now. We'll see you shortly. Thanks for watching the Tree Peekers podcast. Episode 14 is up next, right, Rylie?
Yes.
That's it. We'll see you guys then. This was the Ape Canyon incident and much more to come. We'll see y'all later.